Evening everybody. This will be a fairly short one this evening. I'm going to show you the gearbox and the prop shaft. A few people have asked about these things, so we'll get you a look at them. So I run the Samsonas 6-speed sequential, just a black barrel basically. From the outside, lovely bit of kit. Probably, well, without doubt, the nicest gearbox I've ever used. Strong and reliable. It does exactly what it says in the tin. Has a set of drop gears inside it up at the front, so you can change the overall gearing without worrying about the crown wheel and pinion ratios, and get something that suits yourself. Unlike a lot of the boxes these days, they have a quick fit system. At the very front they have an adapter plate here that goes on to the bell housing, bolts from the inside, and then we have 4 bolts, 2 at the bottom and 2 at the top. So when you're doing your maintenance, it's easy to just slip the box out, leave the bell housing there. There doesn't be a whole lot of room to take bell housings and everything out with the gearbox, so it lets you do it separately. Mounting wise, I kept it fairly simple. They do come with a nice little aluminium bracket goes across the back and 2 bushes. I find they're a wee bit vibratory when through the car. They carry a fair bit of vibration through the car, so I went for like a Pinto style engine mount, just a big rubber bush, and made a bracket onto the back of it, and that eliminates that, so that works well for me, so I'm happy with that. The gear linkage, you can see it up in there. Yeah, the gear linkage is a remote gear linkage with a rod that goes back and forth in a rose joint each end. Very important that stays level with the gearbox, or parallel with the gearbox. With all the different sizes of tunnels in Mark IIs these days in various cars, you can have that run at some serious angles. I did a bit of a modification, if you can see it up in there, where I actually lengthened the bottom of the stick by, well, about an inch roughly, inch 25-26 mil. That is a fantastic thing because it shortens the throw of the gearbox. It did 2 things. It left me rod linkage run level, which is what I wanted to do, and it shortened the throw of the gearbox without increasing the weight of it. So that's a small thing you can do that, again, costs nothing to do, but it really helps the thing. So I was real pleased when that worked out. So I'm hoping to get that gearbox out next week, because its done its mileage is due for a check over. I would check it over every 4 or 5 rallies, or if you do something like San Marino, where you're just baiting her up and down through the box like a lunatic, you would check her over straight after that rally. But it's due as check over, so when I have it out next week, I'll do a video of the internals of the gearbox. Prop shaft is a 2-piece prop shaft, carrier bearing in the middle. As you'll see in the back of the gearbox, there's no plunge in the back of the box. It's a flange that just comes out, just bolted to the main shaft. So there's no slider there, so you have to have a slider somewhere. So 2-piece shaft gives you the option, gives you that particular thing, so you can have a slider on the back part of it. So when the axle goes up and down, this shaft can go in and out to adjust its length. If it was just bolted solid, obviously it would try and pull us off to pieces, because the axle would go through an arc and lengthens and shortens that shaft. I have a fairly ignorant prop shaft carrier that I've been meaning for years to modify and make it lighter and make it a tidier job. I've just never got around to it. Maybe now in lockdown would be a time to do it. The slotting is a handy thing, that if you are messing about with prop shafts or you have to change them, you have multiple points, because again, you'll never get 2 Escorts with a carrier bearing in the same place. BAR Props made me this prop shaft. I broke quite a few prop shafts. I'll actually put a photograph or 2 in the comments of ones that are broken. So about 2 years ago, BA Props in Neath near Swansea, they took on the challenge of making me a shaft that I couldn't break, and so far, touch wood, I haven't broke it. Having said that, it's done 2 tough years, so it's probably time for me to order another one. Like most of the stuff, as I've told you about on Baby Blue, you don't wait for it to break, you try and change it before it lets go. So I think it's done really well, so I'll probably order a new one shortly. Their main thing, apart from it's really well balanced, there's no a lot of props you put on, there's vibrations and there's all kinds of crack. This has been really good from you bolt it in until you go, it's no problem. But they run a slightly heavier shaft through the centre and a different bearing most of the props I've broken have been in there, so they've done that, and it's solved a lot of issues. Obviously I haven't broken it yet, so it's good. Apart from that, it's relatively straightforward. Different people have talked about pig's head angles and where you set that on an Escort. For me, it's all to do with the engine and gearbox. Whatever angle the engine and gearbox sits at, you want the prop shaft carrying through sort of as straight and level as you can. So obviously you're working on that right height, that it has to be like that. So you can do it different ways. I did it with the GoPro actually, just videoing underneath the car to see what way the axle was moving, and then I adjusted the axle to suit. So when she's under load, baiting down a stage, that prop shaft's running pretty through the whole way. So the pig's head adjustment is, you can do it, you know, maybe on the flange at the front, and an angle finder, and find the angle of that, as opposed to the back flange of the gearbox, and have the prop shaft running through. And that seems a logical sort of way to do it. I'll show you the inside with the gear stick. So gear stick's very straightforward. I don't have a paddle shift. Don't know, it's not something I really ever found that I would sort of need. I think if I could pull the stick fast enough, it would do the job. I'm a bugger for resting my hand on the stick anyway, so I would probably end up pulling the stick whether I should be or not. So as I say, it's a lovely change, so I'm really happy with it. You have a trigger in the front that stops you hitting neutral when you're going down through the box. Obviously you're pulling back the way to go up the gears from 1st to 6th, and then you're pushing forward to go down the gears. There's a stopper in the box so that when you get down to 1st gear, if you push it again accidentally, you're not going to go into neutral, or worse still, into reverse. So that trigger, you pull it to get into neutral, pull that, and then push the stick, gets you into neutral, and then pull it, push again, gets you into reverse, to reverse it of the junction you've just overshot. Works really well with a flat shift. There's a dual potentiometer that comes up through the tunnel just behind the CPU, and that brings an output up for the display to tell us what gear we're in, and then it also works back to the link ECU to give us a flat shift. So it's that there's no strain gauge or no intermediate ECU. It all works direct, and that works fantastically well, very reliable. There's lots of dramas with flat shifts around the country, and thank God I'm not one of them. Works really well. When we're in here, I didn't cover the handbrake on the last one. Handbrake, there's no great science to my handbrake, it's just a handbrake. Probably the weirdest thing is that it's on the tunnel where it should be, in my opinion. A lot of guys running upright handbrakes, so it's sitting up beside the gear stick. I tried that back 4 or 5 years ago, but every time the shit hit the fan, I reached for the tunnel and the gear handbrake wasn't there. So I just stopped torturing myself, give up, and put it back in the tunnel. And it is where, if I need it, that's where it's at. It's a 0.625 master cylinder, which seems to go on forever because I don't use the handbrake very much, obviously. So that's straightforward. So there you go. That's as much as I can tell you about the gearbox and the prop shaft right now. As I said earlier, when I get a chance next week, I'll pull the box out and I'll do a video on the box itself. So thanks for watching. Until the next time, be safe.